Hi, this is Privateer Station. Today we bring you another special. This one is a research by Lyubov Sobol, a Russian opposition politician, and her team that aired about a couple of weeks ago. It is dedicated to Putin's bunkers. For many years, Vladimir Putin has been called the Bunker Gramps. Where did the nickname originally come from? As it turns out, there is a real network of bunkers throughout Russia, intended for the highest person of the state. Each of them is guarded by an armed unit, and tens of millions of rubles from the state budget are spent on the construction and maintenance of these monstrosities. In her new video, Lyubov Sobol, a Russian opposition activist in exile, provides a detailed account of Putin's bunker network and tries to figure out why Vladimir Putin needs a secret underground security system. Original video material aired in the middle of March and is presented to you courtesy of N. Enjoy.
The nickname Bunker Grandpa has stuck to Putin so much that Yandex, Russian search engine, even tried to block Putin's photos on this request. And you cannot imagine how accurate this nickname is. Putin's network of bunkers extends at least from Moscow to the Urals and is guarded by several armed units. Billions of rubles are spent on their construction and maintenance. But before I tell you more about this, please like this video so that more people can see it. Subscribe to my YouTube and Telegram channels. The links are in the description. In March 2022, an interesting event occurred that caught the attention of journalists from the Sobesednik publication. A month after Putin invaded Ukraine, many feared that the war could escalate to nuclear. It was then that Russian aircraft that transported the country's leadership flew where they usually did not fly. A plane that in peacetime flew mainly between Moscow, St. Petersburg and Sochi, flew to Yekaterinburg and twice to Ufa in 1 week. On the same days, another Russian aircraft besides Yekaterinburg also flew to Magnitogorsk. But what could they be doing there? To the south of Yekaterinburg and precisely between Magnitogorsk and Ufa, there is a secret military town called Mizhgorye. Around 15,000 people live there, and you can only enter with a special pass. The cities that form the enterprises of Mizhgorye have an inconspicuous name, Construction Management Number 30. The management website states that it specializes in building particular underground safety structures, which means plainly building bunkers. This management is also directly linked to the Kremlin administration and people responsible for Putin's bunkers. Mizhgorye adjoins Mount Yamantau, which translates from Bashkir as Evil Mountain. In 1992, the former head of the Bashkir Republic let slip that a bunker for top government officials was being built there. 11 years later, the Washington Post wrote about this bunker. Fearing an attack on their leadership, the Soviets sent tens of thousands of workers to these remote locations. In the late 1990s, American spy satellites spotted the workers were still there. According to the plans, the Yamantau bunker is located inside a quartz mountain at a depth of almost a kilometer from the top. It is more of a shelter than a command post because quartz interferes with radio signals. Work in Yamantau was almost stopped for a long time, but less than a year before the war began, everything changed. In late April 2021, a whole column of heavy construction equipment and a new electric locomotive arrived in Mizhgorye from Moscow. Ordinary people are forbidden to climb Yamantau. The mountain is guarded by military gameskeepers and, judging by government contracts, quadcopters with 32 magnification and a thermal imager worth from 500 to 1 million rubles are used. A no-fly zone has been established over Yamantau, just like over Putin's Palace in the town of Gelendzhik. It's interesting that the same builders who constructed the Yamantau facility and Putin's Palace bunker are not hiding it very well. It's literally written on their website, except they call the palace a sanatorium in Gelendzhik. That's for disguise, comrades. It's probably genius. And the bunker under Putin's Palace is a separate story. It consists of 16 levels and runs through the entire mount on which the palace stands. Here's what one of the builders of the bunker told the Medusa publication. There is a whole ant colony under the house in the rock. We just go into the lobby, like we do every day in the subway, and start going down. On the 14th level, there is the upper block of technical rooms. On the 8th, there is a wine cellar. And at the very bottom on the first floor, there is a 100-meter tunnel that leads to the beach, or what the builders call the VIP exit. And it's really not just a simple tunnel. They dug it out to install a moving walkway like in airports, so Putin wouldn't have to walk 100 meters to the beach. Listen, I'm in a very difficult situation right now. The builder said that Putin's Palace bunker is an unprecedented underground facility that has no analogs in Russia in terms of complexity and capacity, and perhaps in the world. Putin isn't interested in building the world's best hospitals or schools. He builds schools that literally start falling apart after a year. It's another matter to build the best bunker in the world for yourself. At the very beginning of the construction, the engineers were asked to create access to the sea, and they suggested making an external lift shaft on the mountain. But the customer replied that this absolutely cannot be done. We're close to the coastal zone, foreign borders, NATO countries, so under no circumstances can the access be visible. It might be subjected to attacks. So, they had to cut a shaft inside the mountain. According to the builder, such a shaft costs as much as 1 or 2 subway stations, about 3 billion rubles. And that was in the early 2000s. It's much more expensive now. I'll say it again so you can understand the degree of madness. Putin wanted to make an access from his palace to the beach, but did not want it outside the mountain because he was afraid of NATO countries. Therefore, he cut a shaft through the entire mountain for 3 billion rubles. Although the builder said it was about NATO, it's possible that Putin is more afraid of the ordinary Russians. In 2015, criminal cases were opened against digger Pavel Safronov and his friends for breaking into a bunker in the center of Moscow a year earlier. Pavel described how there were no signs indicating that the bunker was secret. We walked through a tunnel that went 200 meters underground for several hours without encountering anyone. There were areas with lights on and others in ruins. We came across halls as tall as 12-story buildings and several kilometers long. When Pavel and his friends emerged from the bunker, they were detained. Afterwards, FSB agents searched them and beat them. Igor Chernobrov said that an FSB agent punched him, demanding that he hand over some flash drives. But I didn't even have a camera with me, only an old flip phone. I was forced to strip completely naked. When I was down to my underwear, he hit me again. Igor was 15 at the time. They were fined and released, but criminal cases were brought against them a year later. They were accused of disclosing state secrets because they posted photos from the bunker on social media. Some received suspended sentences, while others were sent to high-security prisons. Because it's too difficult for Putin to properly secure their secret bunkers so that teenagers cannot get in, they prefer to make an example of someone to deter others. Besides, not just one but several military units are responsible for guarding Putin's bunkers, located both in Moscow and in the Krasnodar region, not to mention in the closed military towns such as Chekhov 2 near Moscow or Kuznets 12 near Penza. In December 2020, an additional unit was sent to Mezhgorye. According to the law passed last year, personnel guarding the bunkers can now not only detain violators but also use deadly force against them. However, often violators themselves do not even know that they are violating something because the secret facilities are so secret that there are simply no signs indicating their secrecy. In 2017, The Times reported that Putin has 2 massive nuclear bunkers located 300 meters deep under Moscow, which can accommodate up to 10,000 people. One of these bunkers is directly under the Kremlin, and the other is located under a former military base in the Ramenki district near Moscow State University. This bunker was actually mentioned in a Time magazine article as far back as 1992. It's so huge that it has been referred to as an underground city, and according to the article, it is connected by tunnels to the Kremlin and other key buildings in Moscow. Recently, there has been active construction taking place on the territory above this bunker. One half of the site was given over to Moscow State University by direct order of Putin. It's being built by the foundation headed by Putin's daughter, Katerina Tikhonova. The other half of the land belongs to military units of special services, meaning it's also controlled by the Kremlin. Houses for the FSB and FSO have already been built there, and a new residential complex is being constructed. Moreover, the same company that built the Moscow State University Center is now building this residential complex, and the apartments in these buildings are not for sale on the open market. Journalists from Sobesednik have found one of the entrances to the bunker in Ramenki. It's surrounded by a concrete fence, and officially a funeral service is registered there. But the service itself said it has no operations at that address. Local residents said that this used to be an entrance to Putin's bunker, and the journalist noticed a car belonging to the management that deals with bunkers at the gate. For Putin's bunkers, they have been procuring dosimeters, radioactivity and chemical reconnaissance instruments, systems for detecting speech, data leakage channels, and many other things that you might only hear about in spy movies. The distance monitoring system for radiation conditions in the Moscow shelter alone cost 112 million rubles. Do you think that Putin has gone crazy? Yes. Moreover, Putin has a real bunker on wheels. He is afraid to fly across the country on a plane, so he travels on an armored train, just like Kim Jong-un. The train includes a carriage for the president with a bedroom and a study, a carriage for accompanying personnel, and a carriage for special communications. To ensure that the train does not stop and travels at maximum speed, the railroad schedule is specifically adjusted for it. In addition, a secret network of tracks and entire stations have been specially built for Putin's train. What does it all mean? That Putin is really preparing to start a nuclear war? When a person spends billions of rubles to maintain such an absurdly large secret system to ensure his own personal safety, it's not a cold calculation. It's paranoia. Putin is not going to start a nuclear war. On the contrary, he is trembling with fear of it. Therefore, do not give in to his intimidation. I order the defense minister and the chief of the general staff to put the Russian army's deterrence forces on a special combat alert mode. He will not cause a nuclear apocalypse. The only benefit of these insanely expensive bunkers is that someday they will turn into very interesting museums. Tourists from all over the world will come to see the 16-level bunker near Gelendzhik, just as they do now, going to see Mussolini's bunker or the recreated bunker of Hitler, in which he shot himself when he realized he had lost the war. Will you go to see the bunker in Gelendzhik when tours start there? Write comments, share the video with your friends, subscribe to my channel. And be sure to install VPN so that in case of YouTube blocking, you do not lose access to important information.